Because I will tell you, when I was in my unawakened state and I was going through all of the transitions and the trials of my life, I had no idea that dreams were such a profound way for our souls to communicate with us. I look back at certain dreams that I've had that I can vividly remember, and I know that if I would have actually took the time to dissect them a little bit deeper or been more curious about them, I probably could have avoided a lot of cycles and patterns that my ego was hooked into.
Hey, soul family. Welcome to the Alive and Awake podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kay, and I have spent the last 20 years teaching people how to work with their wounds and overcome their greatest fears so they can learn how to thrive in a world where they were only taught to conform. Each week, we will dive deep into the practical, the spiritual, and the mystical so I can teach you how to do the inner work to know yourself, trust yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to create a world where you feel fully alive, awake, and free. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Ready? Let's dive in.
Welcome to another episode. If you are the feminine, you are feeling it this month as we enter full blown into eclipse season, where lots of things are going to be stirred up in us energetically. So I felt like it was a super important time to talk about how to work with your dreams and how your psyche and your higher self is trying to communicate with you to give you messages that you can extract for this next year of your expansion. So make sure that you stay tuned to the end of the episode because I'm going to be giving you 5 questions to ask yourself about every single dream that you have, where you wake up and you know that there's some nuggets in there that you can really start to think about and extract that are messages for you to deep dive into. So a lot of the information that I'm going to be sharing today, I've got from my spiritual mentor and teacher, Eric Godsey. You can go back and listen to our episode on the Alive and Awake podcast called Dharma and Dreams, where we talk a lot about Carl Jung and the psyche and how to really dig a little bit deeper. He also has a 2-hour episode that I will post in the show notes that can give you some other tools and tips to extract what you need to when it comes to dream analysis and really digging into the world of the unseen and the unknown and how to use this avenue to do your deeper inner work. Because I will tell you, when I was in my unawakened state and I was going through all of the transitions and the trials of my life, I had no idea that dreams were such a profound way for our souls to communicate with us. I look back at certain dreams that I've had that I can vividly remember, and I know that if I would have actually took the time to dissect them a little bit deeper or been more curious about them, I probably could have avoided a lot of cycles and patterns that my ego was hooked into. So it's very important for you to understand that dreams are a way for your higher self and your psyche to start to communicate with you. And when you think of it in that way, it's, oh, they're not random. They're not happening for no reason. They are a pathway to a higher level of consciousness and a deeper relationship with your soul. Our dreams are 100% messages from above for us to pay attention to. Having great sleep hygiene and dream hygiene are really important on the spiritual path. I wanted to talk about some of the ways in which we tend to block our dreams. So if you are super stressed out, if you have a lot of cortisol, if you're not a good sleeper, if you don't get into REM sleep because you have a lot of trauma and like stress hormones built up in your body, the likelihood for you to go into a dream state is pretty low. I often hear from my clients, I just don't dream. And that actually is a sign that your channel is blocked. And things that block our channel are substances. So, alcohol, cannabis, any type of like mood altering substance can absolutely significantly impact your ability for your brain to go into REM sleep. If you're using that on a consistent basis, you're probably not dreaming. Also, if you don't have a good sleep routine, if you're not relaxed, if you have an overactive brain, all those types of things can really get in the way of you actually having dreams. And you do have them because when you go to sleep at night, your brain goes into beta, alpha, theta, delta. The brain waves are so slow and you get into a deep sleep state where your unconscious is actually working with your guides, your angels, your guardians in the spirit realm to do some work and to assist you and support you here in the human 3D realm. So we can't disconnect from source, or we can't disconnect from our guides ever. Even if we're not remembering our dreams, like you're always connected. It just depends on whether or not you are awake enough, if you are clear enough, and that you are tuned in enough to be able to get the messages. In my more unawakened state, when I was still very much traumatized, like living out of alignment, eating disorder, binging on alcohol, doing all the things, I definitely had dreams, but I didn't know how to use them to my advantage to really start to understand that there was something else out there that was trying to get in touch with me or trying to relay messages to me. If you want to get a better dream hygiene practice, start a dream journal. And I'm going to be giving you 5 questions to ask yourself when you do have dreams. So make sure you stay tuned until the end. And I'll be giving you very clear things to ask and what to look for that were also given to me by my mentor, Godzi. But I would recommend being very intentional with the practice. So the more you set the intention of, I want to be curious about my dreams and I want to start to interpret my dreams and start to really work with my higher self, the more you're giving spirit permission to come in and guide you. Because we have free will as a soul, spirit will never interfere with our own free will. It's not just going to keep giving you things and giving you things and giving you dream wise or otherwise if you don't give permission. That's how loved we are. We're allowed to do what we want. We're allowed to live how we want. We can make the choices that we want. But if we want some help, we actually have to say, God, angels, universe, I give you full permission to move on my behalf and start to communicate to me through my dreams. There's things that I have questions about. Oftentimes at night, when you go to bed, you can ask your guides and guardians to give you some clear answers to some questions that you might have, maybe direction to take, relationship advice, patterns that keep repeating. Whatever you're curious about, you can actually ask before you go to bed, or even write a note and place it underneath your pillow. So anything that you ask for is a call and it's a prayer that will be answered and you will get the message. But it's so important that you understand that the message that you're receiving may need to be dissected in a different way than what you're used to with your human level of consciousness. So, spirit always speaks to us in signs, symbols, and synchronicities. So, us to our human realm, let's just say we see a cat in our dream, we're just like, oh, that's a cat. But what spirit does, it's different. A cat represents a lot of different things. So, it could be, what are your instincts? Do you need to be more playful or curious? So, like when you think of a cat, like what does that represent? So, spirit uses animals, it uses signs, it uses different objects, different people in your dreams to try to get messages to you. But if you're only looking at it from a human 3D perspective, you could miss some really deep insight and guidance for what your higher self is trying to communicate to you. I guess this is a long way to say, don't just take it at face value. Really allow yourself to dig in and pull out everything that it might mean to you. That's why it's important to do a dream journal, because you will start to see certain things that keep showing up for you. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. That was actually in this dream, or this is a theme or a pattern that keeps coming up. One of my themes in when I was in my less awakened state was I would dream of these really powerful mentors that I was following, Tony Robbins, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And in the dream, I was in my ego where I would try to get their attention with my body, where I would act coy or sexy or would really want them to notice me. When I think about that and that the time frame of my life where I was more insecure and less confident in myself and I didn't really know myself, I would actually do that in my life where if I would go out with girlfriends or go to a bar or go to the gym and there was like an attractive guy there, I would notice my energy start to shift and change to try to get them to notice me. So, of course, that's going to come through in my dream space where here are these really powerful male figures in not my life, but in the world. And so it was a way that my psyche was trying to communicate to me this is a part of your ego that needs attention. It needs to die. It needs to transcend and evolve into something more, something different. Obviously, I know now that like it's not my appearance, it's not what I'm wearing, it's not my weight, like it's not anything that makes me attractive, it's my energy. Right. Like I'm now in a position where I would never feel insecure of having a conversation with either one of those people in the room because I look at them as my equal. Back then, I put them on this high pedestal and I put myself in a pit. And so my psyche was trying to communicate to me we need to work on this. We need to work on your self worth. We need to work on your body image. We need to work on how you feel that you need to get attention. It was really a call from my higher self. And I didn't know back then what I didn't know, but obviously I do now. And I was like, wow, like I had a lot of dreams like that on repeat. So it's important to pay attention to the themes that are coming through to you in your dreams because it's always a deeper message. And you're going to want to pay very close attention to the objects, the people, the scenery. Everything is almost like a movie in your dream. It's so think of it as your oversoul or your higher self is the puppet master where it gets to orchestrate everything in this 3D reality as if it's creating a scene in a movie for you to evaluate and dissect about the work that your soul is calling you to do in this lifetime. Sometimes that scene for me would be in a bar and there would be drinks and there would be other women there, but like they were the only two men. So, really paying attention to the ways that spirit uses the scenery to give you a higher message. It was generally like dark. It was generally not like a super high vibe. It felt like eerie. And back then, that's actually how I would feel when I would be going to like nightclubs with my girlfriends in my 20s. And just the energy of it was very dense and very dark. So the message obviously was like, you are living out of alignment with your higher self and what your soul and your path or what your path is. So when you think about like these signs and symbols and synchronicities, it is a deeper message. And the reason I felt so called to come on and talk about this week is because Spirit has significantly been working with me in my dream space very recently, where I had three dreams that piggybacked on one another. And it makes total sense because right now, if I look at my life, I feel like I'm fully stepping into this brand new version of myself onto my highest timeline. I'm really excited about fulfilling my purpose and the work that I'm meant to do with women in the world. I just launched this amazing online course. I just got done hosting or participating in a Spirit Expo in my hometown. Like all of these things were like really happening around me. But my subconscious was holding on to some fear So I had this dream 3 days before the expo where it was my mentor, Eric Godzi, that I just told you about. And we were in a tent at a wellness fit for service event. And in the tent, there was sparring going on. And I was watching these men use these swords to spar. And then I took a dagger. And instead of sparring with my mentor, I sparred with this like little boy. Then at the end of the dream, the tent started filling with all of these snakes just dropping from the ceiling everywhere, where snakes actually represent a part of your ego that's ready to die in dreams. And it was major, huge, different colors of anacondas and large snakes and small snakes. And they were just filling the tent, but they were very gentle and they were not trying to attack me. And so, what I did is I used my 5 question protocol to really figure out what was going on with the dream. And because I know that every single person in a dream actually represents an unacknowledged, displaced part of me, right? So if I look at Godzi, I consider him my mentor. I think he's very wise. I appreciate his ability to be neutral and to be incredibly intelligent. Like he's someone that I would say is embodied in his divine masculine qualities that I really admire. Now, all of those qualities, the wisdom that he has, the intelligence that he has, the work that he does in the world are all aspects of myself that I don't often acknowledge. So it's interesting how my psyche picked him to model or mirror to me the ways in which I don't often see myself that way. After I deep dive and I journaled into everything I possibly could know using these questions to try to figure out what my psyche and higher self was trying to communicate to me, I put it into ChatGPT, which I highly recommend because ChatGPT can pull out certain things that maybe we're not aware of when it comes to the symbology of the spirit realm in which your higher self is trying to communicate to you. So, what it extracted was that there is a part of me that is fearful of stepping into this next phase of my expansion and becoming the spiritual leader and spiritual teacher that I know that I came here to be in this lifetime. And I'm very familiar with that because I've had past lives where I was tortured, I was killed, natural disasters happened, and my whole family and tribe died when I was living at my spiritual best. And when I was super connected to source, I was getting all these visions. I was leading a community out of trouble. I was very highly anointed and bad things happened. So, of course, in this lifetime, there's some hesitancy in my psyche or in my body around stepping into that role boldly. So, in the dream, the dagger that I chose to spar with actually means or represents, according to ChatGPT, a tool that is meant to cut through truth, that I'm wielding my spiritual knowledge and learning to cut through the lies and the distortions and all of the fear that was put onto me in this life through religious dogma, through social conditioning, societal programming, and all of the things that the ego holds on to around stepping into your highest self and into your own truth with a conviction. And the little boy, the younger boy that I chose to spar with, was a younger version of myself that was a representation of my inner child that is holding on to this fear because I chose to spar with the child and not with my mentor, that I'm afraid of stepping into alignment with my path. Right. So if I wouldn't have put that into ChatGPT and if I wouldn't have extracted all of that, and I wouldn't have talked about what the snakes represent and what the dagger represents and what Godzi represents, I would have not fully been aware of the fact that there is an unconscious, subconscious part of me that is afraid of stepping into my full blown spiritual power and expansion in this next timeline that I know that I am being very called to step into because there's a hesitancy or there's like a fear. And I remember I had an Akashic record reading done with my mentor, Candace Rasa. You can go back and listen to the episode with her about the Akashic records, where my very first reading was saying she's not as big and as bold as she could be with her spiritual knowledge. And that kept ringing in my head all week long. The synchronicities or the signs, like when you start to hear things on repeat. And then I had that dream, which fully represented me not feeling fully comfortable stepping into my spiritual truth and my spiritual power. So, this is how your psyche is always communicating to you. And then it came with a series of a couple other dreams that we don't necessarily need to dive into, but it was about me allowing myself to receive gifts from the masculine. Like I was gifted my favorite convertible that I have on my vision board. I can't wait to own it someday. That is going to be mine. But I didn't want to accept the gift. And so I've also been on a path in my life currently learning to repair my relationship, not only with the human masculine, I've done a lot of work on that. I feel like that is complete, but with my heavenly divine father masculine. So there is a part that doesn't trust that the divine father is going to take care of me, is going to support me, is going to provide for me, and that I can find my safety and security in that energy, and that I can let go of control. Me not accepting the convertible as a gift from the masculine is a representation in my current life, the relationship I'm currently working with Father God. And it's incredible to think about the ways in which spirit communicates to you in your dreams about every phase of your evolution that you are going through. And then the third dream I had was me actually being a spiritual teacher and teaching really dominant, raw, like really strong, like muscular men around a business table about the divine feminine consciousness and how we have been under this wounded, dominant masculine control where they think that they get their power from women, from money, from status, from success. And as I'm educating them about the divine mother and about the divine feminine consciousness, they were curious and they were open and they softened and they realized that the way that they've been living also is out of alignment with how they want to feel about the feminine and about themselves. So each dream piggybacked on to the role that I'm stepping into as a spiritual leader. But because I know how to work with my dreams and I know how to extract them, and I use ChatGPT as a tool, like I was able to really transcend and transmute that so much faster because the work is feeling completely comfortable and confident stepping into my power with the knowledge that I know and not being afraid of that, right? Because you're always being asked to evolve and you're always being asked to change. The only thing in this world that is constant is change. But we have been so afraid of change where we think that we have to stay tied to one person to be married to our whole life, one job until retirement, one place to live in, and because that's where we get safety and security. Whatever you feel that you need to be tied to that actually is causing you misery and discomfort and aggravation and is soul crushing you, you will be asked to face those things because it is a complete lie. We are here to evolve. We are here to grow. We are here to shift and challenge and change and play in this world of the unknown. This reality, 3D matrix, is your soul's playground. It came here for growth. It came here for expansion. It did not come here to stay small and stay the same and living in fear. So if you are analyzing your dreams, you can understand the work that your higher self is calling you to tap into, which is a superpower, because then you can start to develop self mastery. It's you against you in this world, because everything in the outer reality is only a representation of your inner world and what you have created or said yes to at some point. And only you can change that. We're waiting for God or Jesus or someone to save us, but really God and Jesus lives within us and is communicating to us all of the time. So it's so important for you to understand that everything that goes on in your waking life and in your dream space is a message to you from your oversoul and your higher self. And the other thing to think about when it comes to your dreams is that every single person in your dreams is an unacknowledged or displaced part of you or part of your psyche that maybe you rejected, maybe you denied, maybe you disembodied. How do I explain it in a way that you'll understand this? So, on a 5D, 7D, 8D, like a higher level of consciousness in the spirit realm, we are all one. There is no such thing as separation. So everybody is a representation of your brother and sister in Christ. Christ consciousness, not like Jesus Christ, like a level of consciousness where you understand that there is no such thing as separation and every single person represents a version of you. So in your dream space, spirit takes advantage of this and will use people and things to help you look at a part of you that maybe you're denying or that you don't want to embody. So, for instance, the younger boy in my dream. And then another one that's coming to mind is when I was at a what is it called? A retreat where I was doing a 5-day fast, sauna, cold plunge, like complete detox and reset for my body. My dream space was on fire. My channel was completely open. Spirit would be waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would wake up, I'd record my dreams, I'd do some deep dive journaling, I'd head back to bed. And I got all of these downloads and all of this insight because of the work that I was doing on my physical body to receive that information. But in this one specific dream, it was amazing. I was in a town and in a village, and there was like this energy or these entities that were coming to try to kill us. And it was me and my best friend's daughter, who was 11 years old at the time. And so I was taking her by the hand, and we were running and we were trying to hide from these energies. And we found ourselves in a closet with these clothes. And she was very beaten and very battered and abused and dirty. And she just looked very homely. She looked very traumatized and was not well. And so in the dream, the skies actually parted, and spirit gave me a visual of what the spirit realm actually looks like with all of these like beautiful angels and colors and lions with wings that were flying around. And it was the most majestic, magnificent image that I could ever imagine. And then Jesus came through the clouds and said to the 11-year-old girl standing next to me in the closet, "Daughter, why are you dressed that way? That's not who you really are." And he changed her clothes and he put this beautiful outfit where she was glowing and shining and looked very just majestic is the word that I can describe it. And I looked over at her, and then I heard God say, "This is who you really are. Don't ever forget that." And the skies closed and all the darkness was sucked up and it was taken away. But after I really dug into what that dream could represent, there is an 11-year-old part of me that I know I don't have a lot of memory of. I went through a lot in my childhood, Lots of physical abuse, sexual abuse, chaos, addiction, a lot of darkness. And I know because I've had a lot of readings done that there is a place that is blocked off from my consciousness. A time frame from about 11 to 13 years old is very scattered. I don't have a lot of memory from that time frame of my life. And when I asked the Akashic record keepers about it, they said that was a time that there was significant sexual abuse in your lifetime, but we blocked you from being able to have access to that information because your life had already been so traumatic and full of turmoil that we don't think you would have been able to fulfill your purpose if you had that information. So I fully know and I'm aware that there is a blockage there toward connecting with my 11-year-old inner child because of the trauma that she endured. And that was a very clear message from spirit that all of the trauma and all of the things that happened and all of the dirtiness and disgust that I used to feel about myself are not real because it's not who I really am. And the change of clothes represents like my higher self, my goddess self, my spiritual self that chose to work through these things in this lifetime, represented by my friend's daughter doing a complete makeover and change in my dream. So she was a aspect of myself that I had disembodied and I had not wanted to look at. Since then, it's been a 3-year process of reconnecting with my inner child a lot and really doing a lot of work around loving myself, compassion for myself, bringing back like the playful aspects of my personality and not taking life so seriously and really getting into alignment with every single part of me that made me who I am today. So I give you that example just so that you can understand that spirit is always communicating to you and that every person in your dream is actually an aspect of yourself that you're not acknowledging or you have disembodied. And then lastly, I want to drop in quickly about sleep paralysis. So, sleep paralysis is a myth. It's actually a lot of people come and talk to me about this. But when you're actually in a paralyzed state, it is because your psyche is trying to communicate to you that there is a truth that you're not willing to face and that there is something that you're avoiding and that you're denying in your life. So when I was living in my apartment in my 20s and I was doing bodybuilding competitions, I had a really significant eating disorder. I was binging on alcohol when I in the off season. I was doing things with men that I'm not very proud of because I felt really worthless. All of this was happening and then I would get these really terrifying dreams where I thought a demon was trying to rape me or trying to kill me in my dream. So it'd almost be like I was almost awake, but I was still dreaming and I was asleep. So I would be in my apartment, laying on my couch, and this entity would come and try to possess me or try to overtake me or try to do these like horrifically terrifying things to me. And when I look back on that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, there were things that I wasn't facing. There was a lot of pain that I was in that I didn't want to acknowledge. And my higher self was clearly trying to communicate to me, represented by the demon or the darkness that I was living in, that it wanted me to evolve out of and it wanted me to face. So if there's sleep paralysis or that's happening to you, it's important for you to ask yourself because there's a part of you that knows, right? Like I knew that I wasn't treating my body. I knew that I was living out of alignment. I knew that the things that I was doing and the way that I was living was not in my highest good. But actually, it is a radical sign that you are living on the wrong path for the path that your soul chose for you to take. So it's not some demonic energy or entity that's trying to kill you or get to you, but there's something that you're running from. Like there's something that you're not willing to face. So when you turn around and you look at it, or you journal about it, or you deep dive into it, then you actually get the information that your soul is trying to communicate to you. I wish I would have known that back then because I probably would have made changes a lot faster. but I didn't. So, all of this to say, your dreams are incredibly important. And here are the 5 things that you need to remember to ask yourself when you start to deep dive into your own dream journal. First, what you need to know is that the minute that you sit up in bed is the minute that you will lose every single aspect of your dream or most of the details in your dream, because sitting up, you actually go into a different brainwave state. So, what you want to do is the minute that you have the thought, I need to record this or I need to remember this, you roll over and you put a screen recorder, or not a screen recorder, a voice recorder on your home screen of your phone. Or you keep a notepad next to your bed, but that doesn't always work because you're like sitting up writing. So I recommend the phone. So either send yourself a text message or you speak into a voice recorder and you say every single thing that you can remember about that dream. And then later in the morning, when you wake up, you go back and you ask yourself these 5 questions. So, question number 1 is, what was the emotion that I woke up with? What were you feeling? What was the emotion you woke up with? And then what part of the dream had the highest emotional charge? Right. When I think about my dream with the sky parting and the little girl, it was her changing her clothes and God saying, this is who you really are. When I think about the dream with the sparring and the tent, it was like the snakes filling the tent was the highest. So think about the part of the dream that had the most emotional charge and the emotion that you woke up with. Then what you need to do is think about the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about that image in the dream that had the most emotional charge, because your brain thinks in pictures. It remembers in pictures and it remembers feelings. When you feel into that image, what comes to your mind? Then you have to ask, if your psyche, if your higher self had a message for you, why would it be giving you this image, this feeling, and this situation in your dream? What does it want you to know? What does it want you to face? What does it want you to change? And then you have to ask yourself, when have you felt this way in your waking reality? What is going on as far as like what needs to shift? When have I felt this way in the past? Maybe it's a trauma that you're still holding on to that you need to alchemize and you need to change and you need to shift out of. Maybe it's a relationship that is still like not serving you. Like, where have you felt this way? What does it represent to you? And what does it mean? Because these are the feelings that your higher self wants you to extract so that you can step more into alignment with your highest path and the highest version of yourself so that you can fulfill your purpose for what you want to create and cultivate here on earth. So, real quick rundown of the 5 questions again. What emotion did you wake up with? What was the part of the dream that had the highest emotional charge? What happens when you feel into that image? And if your higher self had a message for you, why would it be sending you this image and these feelings? What do you need to face? What have you been denying? What are you avoiding? What part of your ego needs to die? And where have you felt this way in your life in the past? Those are the 5 questions that Godzi gives to me. I highly recommend going back and listening to his 2-hour episode on his Make Your Myth podcast and really start to do this inner work, because I'm telling you, it is really powerful when you start to expand into the world of your dreams and what is really trying to come through to you. I hope you found this episode really helpful. I'm super excited to hear how it goes for you. So make sure you drop me a line in the comments, come back and tell me what you came up with when you analyzed your dreams. I love hearing from my followers. Let me know what you learned and make sure that you save this episode so that you can go back and listen again and share it with someone you know. Also, it is not too late to sign up for my online course, Wake Up the Warrior Within. We're going to be diving into 6 incredible modules to help you win the war on your emotions, your consciousness, your sacred voice, your feminine power, and your ability to co-create and manifest the life that you came here for. It is only open until next Sunday, which is when we start. If you want to do some deeper work and you want to get some more guidance from me, this is the way. So I hope that you consider it, and you can find more information on my website, aliciakay.com, Warrior Within. I will put all of that in the show notes. And I hope that you guys have a fantastic week and that you are able to ground and stay nourished in this eclipse season.